Yeah, I was gonna say they forgot to fix the pixels when they printed.
That's a thumbnail.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that.
Someone at the printer chose the wrong picture.
In trouble. Sadly.
Horrible picture.
It is pixelated, guys.
What the fuck?
Why is it pixelated?
It's bad, right? It's not just me.
Well, I mean, no, the picture itself is the art is fine. There's a lot of great artwork, but why is it pixelated? Why did they?
Maybe there's a reason. Because look, this hammer looks.
What's the reason?
To be okay.
Go ahead and pixelate the picture? Like, there's no reason for it. In War of Kings, players manage their kingdoms through economics and warfare. Become the first player to get to 13 victory points and you win. In the box you'll find a double-sided game board, 63 territory markers. Each player will choose a sigil besides orange and place 4 in their starting territories as such. 66 army tokens. Each player will take theirs and place 1 in front of their capital. 36 road tokens, placing them in a pool. Now each player will take 1 and place it here. Plastic miniatures representing a village, town, city, wall, fortress, and castle. Players will place their colored village with their army token and their colored town in their capital. An economic ledger pad. Give each player a sheet and they'll record how much gold and primary and secondary resources are generated from which colors. 114 gold coins in 1 and 5 denominations. 6 player reference sheets, giving 1 to each player. 42 battle damage tokens, placing them in a pool. 36 event cards, placed in a deck. 16 marauder cards, placed in their own deck. 6 achievement cards laid out for all players to see. 14 blue and red custom battle dice. 3 resource die, 1 event die, and 150 resource cards in the nominations of 1s and 3s. Determine the first player, and you're now ready to play.
Gameplay consists of 6 phases. The first is construction phase, which itself is broken down into 4 steps, and is the only phase that applies to all players simultaneously. First, all players will receive gold. Gold is received from any controlled village, town, or city that have uninterrupted roads connected to that player's capital. A village will generate 3 gold, a town 6, and a city 9. Since everybody starts off with a village and town that is connected to the capital with a road, each player takes 9 gold. Next, we move on to the check for support. Here, players will see if they can support the number of armies they have. Each village can support 1 army within its borders, a town 1 anywhere on the board, and a city can support 2 anywhere on the board. We then move on to the resource generation. During setup, each player will have marked what resource will be generated from what color and how much. To do this, simply refer to the player's sheet and it will tell you how many of the primary resource. During resource generation, a player will roll all 3 resource dice, and depending on what color comes up and how many times, each player will take that number in resource cards that their kingdom generates. We now move on to the final step, construction. Depending on what you want to buy, there will be a price listing on that reference sheet. To speed the process up, each player will do this simultaneously. Simply return the resources needed to the bank and take what you bought. Players may take trades or trade with the market by exchanging 4 of the same resource.
From the second phase on, the event die, each player will do these 1 at a time clockwise from the starting player. The active player will roll the event die with a resource die and see if he's eligible to draw an event card or a marauder card. If the axe is drawn, the player reveals the top marauder card and applies its effects. Most times, these will spawn a Maladorian marauder army on the board. These are like the game's own army that some players will be able to control for their use. On the other hand, if you rolled a C, T, V, or flag icon, they need to see if they have control of the said settlement, city, town, village, or control in that color. If so, they draw an event card. Note that even lower leveled settlement of one of these rolls in that colored region will also make you draw an event card. These can be used at later times when needed. We then move on to the third phase, movement. The active player can move any number of their ready army 1 territory, or 2 if it's connected by roads. Any army must immediately stop if moved onto a territory controlled by another player or marauder. If so, the player has made an offer of battle to that player. If the territory is empty, we'll move on to the exploration phase. But first, the player will have to flip its army token that moved to the unready side. When exploring an empty territory, the active player will roll a resource die and a purple bonus die. Depending on the result, they'll cross-reference the exploration table and apply the effect. These range from really good ones like discovering ancient roadways to really bad ones by spawning a Maladorian settlement with 2 of its armies. We'll then move on to the battle phase for any armies clashing in territories, or if in a settlement not owned by the attacking player.
The defender can choose to retreat their ready armies if he so chooses, to an adjacent territory they control. If he chooses not to or can't, a round of war will ensue. Then the attacker will roll the 4 red battle dice, plus any bonus dice, if any. Each warhammer represents a hit. The defender now rolls 2 blue defense dice, any bonus die, and any fortification dice if any. One of these if they have a wall, 2 if a fortress, or 3 if a castle. Any shield rolled will negate one of the warhammer hits. If any hits get through, mark the damage with battle damage counters on it. Any army, including Maladorians, can sustain no more than 3 wounds before being defeated. However, even if an army is destroyed, they will get their turn to attack, as it is considered to have been defending simultaneously. To do so, they will roll 4 blue battle dice and any bonus dice if any. For every flail symbol, they score a hit. The attacker will roll their 2 battle dice and any bonus dice if any. Again, any shield will negate a hit. Battle damage then gets assigned, and now any destroyed army is removed. If any army stands, they can retreat from where they came from or offer another round of battle. Note that any settlement which does not have any army protecting it will have its militia there. The characteristics for these are well listed in this table in the rulebook. If a culture is defeated, the attacker can gain control of it, at the risk of them rebelling if no army remained there. The last phase of a turn is supplies. The active player can heal any wounded army for 2 gold. Only if the army is ready and is connected to an uninterrupted roadwork to a town or city. Then a new round begins. Some achievement cards might be considered as objectives for you to do, to get achievement points quicker. The Empire one will make a player race to be the first to have the best developed territories. The heavily fortified one for the player with a certain number of fortifications. The Master Merchant to the player who generates the most gold, and the Warlord of Arrowith to the player who conquered the most of other players' settlements. When a player reaches 13 victory points, the round finishes and that player wins.
War of Kings has some great components. The miniatures are well detailed, sturdy, and quite abundant, and the custom dice are a nice touch. The components are very functional as well, from the easy little resource cards to the ledgers for easy reference and bookkeeping. The artwork is really good, besides the pixelated front art on the box cover, and the theme is well captured through gameplay. But all this stuff make it look like a bigger strategy game than what it really is. And that is that you are at the constant mercy of the dice rolls. Resource, roll the dice. Event cards, roll the dice. Exploration, roll the dice. War, roll the dice, and on and on. I mean, it wouldn't be so bad if there was a way of mitigating it, but to get the mitigation, you need to have been lucky enough to, well, have rolled the dice well in the first place. From getting lucky in exploration without incident, to getting more resources, to get those bonus dice or fortification dice for that edge, to getting an event card that will help you mitigate this problem. On top of that, the swing from really bad to really good from the event cards and exploration effects add to this problem. And because of this, the game favors the lucky as opposed to the skilled players. Strategies from one turn to the next change so drastically depending on dice rolls. The best strategy we came up with was to actually turtle in your little kingdom and solidify it for many turns before braving the unexplored territories. One game I had spawned 2 Maladorian villages which contained 2 Marauder armies each right next to my kingdom. It was over real quick, which created another problem in this game. There was always a runaway loser. And that sucks when you know early on you're going to have an almost impossible task to bounce back. Speaking of the Maladorians, I don't know why they were made to be as strong as any player's army. For gameplay purposes, they should have rolled less dice and sustained less hits. A bad roll of the dice and it was game over for you. Rebounding from loss of armies was painfully expensive. Look, War of Kings is as if Settlers of Catan and the original version of Risk had a baby. And we didn't like either of those games as well. That said, there are many players who do, and like I tell everyone, our opinions don't matter that much. Tastes vary from players to players. So if you have an eclectic group that can decide on playing a war game, Euro game, or have lots of luck-based rolls, then War of Kings might be for you. But don't take it too serious in the strategy department. Sure, have your short-term tactical fix, but long-term, well, just roll the dice. War of Kings gets a 5 out of 10 from us.
No, I'm sure it's a good game. It's a good game.
It's die roll. It's all about die roll.
Okay, so it's luck.
There's a lot of luck.
All about
a
the flick of the
lot
wrist.
luck. Like, I understand that they were trying to put strategy in there, but man, holy cow, it's all about luck. It's all about luck.